I grew up struggling with the fact that I thought knew. I mean, I am gay, so I find that really difficult. And obviously then, you know, the attitudes of society then. And, you know, when I joined the military, it was still illegal to be gay, so you could lose your career. So luckily, it changed while I was going through officer training. And we knew it was coming. But yeah, I mean, as a young kid, you know, if you feel different, you struggle with that anyway. And you would, and then to think that the one career you want to do says no, you know, you stand there and say, I agree, drugs and taking drugs is incompatible service life. I agree that homosexuality is incompatible service life. Those were the statements you had to make every time you went anywhere near careers officers and stuff. It created a lot of confusion in my mind. And bizarrely, I was so scared of coming out that I thought, well, if I join the military, maybe it'll not happen. You know, maybe that can just go away. You know, that's a whole nother, you know, journey of acceptance, I guess, and being, you know, learning to be confident and being me, you know, being happy being me. But I think one of the other things that I've noticed in, certainly in people who work in a caring environment, be they carers at home, or, you know, clinicians in hospital or primary care, or in a role that helps other people, is that we are good at looking after other people, and we are the personalities that want to do that. And that's really valuable, and that's, you know, it's honourable and everything like that. But what we are hugely at risk of is projecting all of our empathy and caring and everything on other people, and forgetting that we have to look after ourselves. Because I think for a lot of people who do a caring role, they almost feel guilty about looking after themselves, because really they should be doing all of their looking after people. And I mean, I'm guilty of that kind of hero complex. You know, I wanted to be in the military, and I joined the army. I just want to save people. And that's, you know, it feels good. It feels like it should be healthy, but it's not necessarily. So, you know, I think that's been another learning thing for me. It's not selfish to look after yourself. In fact, it's really important, because how are you meant to look after anybody else if you don't look after yourself?
Which I guess comes back to the importance of saying no sometimes as well. So your time at Headley Court was when you said that you first had to open up about mental health. Mm. That experience of talking about mental health that you then found valuable, did that help you further down the line?
Yes. Like I said, the idea of talking, I find very hard. Talking about mental health was not, or talking about feelings, talking about emotions that weren't happy emotions, was not something I was used to, not something I would do at home. I'd do a lot of bottling up. And not something, you know, that was kind of something that I was exposed to through, you know, parents or family or anything like that. So it felt hard, distressing, but incredibly cathartic and useful. So I took that and kind of ran with it. So when I left the RAF, you know, I went to study physiotherapy, and I still had a lot of struggles with what had happened in the RAF, and and I still had chronic pain, and I knew I was struggling. So in order to replicate what I had there, I reached out to university counselling team. So we started talking about childhood, and we started talking about how I processed things as a child, and how my coping strategies I developed as a kid with my kid brain. This happens, I must do that, or this happened, that, and then you interpret it. And you do that as a child, and we all do that as a child, that's how we learn. But finding out as an adult that your coping strategies as a child, a lot of them were great, spot on. Some of them maybe weren't, they were all I could do as a kid, but they weren't good coping strategies, and they're certainly not good enough to bring forward into adult life.
But you've really taken control by going to the people, actually opening that door and going to that person and saying, I need to talk, I need some help. But actually, it's that bravery, that taking that first step. It's hard.
Yeah, it is, and yes, and it was the hardest at the start, and it becomes easier as you've done it more, because it's not as frightening, and you've got more expectation of having a positive outcome. And I think what stuck, one of the things that is maybe part of my stubbornness and maybe deep, subconscious optimism, is that when I get bad, once I kind of get past the absolute down of I don't want to be here anymore, thinking about, life's not worth living, being worthless, being, the world will be better without me. Usually I can reach out during that, and I have, obviously I'm still here, but once I get past that real low, and get some clarity, a little bit of clarity again, my brain kicks into, it doesn't need to be like this. I'm not accepting this. That's what it is. I'm not accepting this situation. And I'm glad, I'm lucky that I've been able to learn that, because, if you're in a bad place, I think it's easy to just go, well, this is it now. This is what I've got. This is it. And there's a difference between accepting when you're really unhappy versus the other acceptance, which is, okay, this is my mental ability, this is my physical ability. I need to make adaptations. But just sort of giving up on, saying, well, life's awful and I'm stuck here. So I've always reached out and gone, no, to the doctors. No, this isn't right. I need more help. I need to change my medication. I need some more support. Surely there is something. And it has worked each time, because I have, taken a step forward, to get where I am now.
It's a powerful story of resilience all throughout. So perhaps tell me a little bit about resilience and what it means to you, and how you've built it through all of this adversity.
I think resilience mentally is probably similar to, in theory, similar to resilience, or in lots of situations. When people train to be firefighters, people train to be in the military, they build your resilience by sending you out doing adventurous activities that are going to scare you. They make you skydive, you go flying, something that's going to put you in an uncomfortable situation, and you build it up slowly, if you're doing it in a healthy way. And because as you do those experiences or those activities, you learn that yes, it's pushed you, but it hasn't put you into complete panic. And so you're stronger the next time, or you felt those emotions and you're able to, you came out the other side and you went, actually, it was uncomfortable, but I managed. The next time it's less uncomfortable. And you keep building up. And so if you're doing a training thing, that's how you do it. And people can do anything. In the most frightening situations, people can do anything because they've built things up. Now, a mental health journey, we don't learn that. There's a bit of it going on in schools now, I think, but resilience training, but a lot of us hadn't learned that way. So we've learned through traumas and bouncing back from them. Some of us are lucky enough to get through and to keep getting through. But by recognising, that things have got better. Relationships fail. Still single, 44. But, relationships fail, but it doesn't mean you're not going to meet somebody. I've learned that through experience. My mental health falls. I've lost 3 careers, but I've come back from it. And it's painful. It's been painful learning, but it's left me optimistic that when things are bad, something else will be good. And then, on a slightly strange one, it's like if you're first feeling down, like properly unwell and thinking about suicide or suicidal thoughts, fleeting thoughts initially. Frightening, really frightening. You think, what am I doing? What is this? This is awful. And it can be compulsive thoughts, and it can, get to people where people are planning suicide, attempt it. It's very frightening, and it's frightening for people around as well. And in the end, I remember somebody said, a doctor saying to me, I worry about you, but let's look at what's happened. You've had these things, but each time you've bounced back. You have those thoughts, they frighten you, but each time you've reached out. When push comes to shove, in the end, you've reached out. So have some confidence in yourself that that the likelihood is, probability is, you're going to reach out again, that things will improve again, that you will get through this again. And to a point where I went through a phase of just being like, oh yes, somebody said, oh, are you having any dark thoughts? Oh yes, every day. And what, to scare somebody? I'm like, no, but I know that that's okay. That's my normal. It's weird, but that's my normal for the minute, and I'm okay. And so resilience is about experience and knowing that you can cope with those uncomfortable situations. And we don't always see it in positive stuff, do we? Flying or learning to drive a car or whatever, you'll come across situations that are would have really frightened you to begin with. But they build you up. Like I was flying with Aerobility and I had an issue with the aircraft and ended up doing an emergency landing somewhere. The thought of that happening, frightening, but having done it and realising, looking back, reflecting on it, talking it through, well, I went through everything I'd been taught, I did it all correctly, I did it all safely, and we had a good outcome. So the next time you go, you think, oh, I'm not worried about that now, because I know that I'm probably going to do the right thing. And I think, you can liken it to lots of stuff in life.
So Catherine, you touched a bit on diversity earlier on. Why do you think diversity is important, and what can we do to increase diversity?
Diversity is important. The world we live in is obviously, it is diverse. We've got such different ranges of people from all sorts of backgrounds, and I think that is, as our world becomes, and where we live, in the UK, becomes, more diverse, we should be celebrating that. And it is, it's, the world's more interesting with different people in it. It would be pretty boring if we were all the same. So I think not only is it important to be supportive of everybody, and I'm glad now we have laws surrounding that. I think everybody benefits. You learn. There's a lot. There's so many other ways to think about life. For me personally, yes, okay, I'm a woman. Yeah, Caucasian though, grew up in the UK, I had that privilege. But being a woman in the military, that was difficult. In Northern Ireland, it was very religion focused. People were in one group or another, especially during the more difficult years in Northern Ireland. I wasn't religious. I sat in the middle. That was positive in some ways, but also created problems in others. And I grew up struggling with the fact that I thought knew. I mean, I am gay, so I find that really difficult. I struggle with that concept. Obviously, that played into my mental health, and obviously then the attitudes of society then. And when I joined the military, it was still illegal to be gay, so you could lose your career. So
how was that then, being in the military, but sort of, say, being gay in the military at a time when it was something you could lose a career over? How?
It was difficult. I mean, luckily the law changed in 2000, and that was when I'd already been in the application system, and I already over the 4 years before that, and I'd been in the UAS and stuff when it was still illegal. It changed while I was going through officer training, and we knew it was coming. But yeah, I mean, as a young kid, if you feel different, you struggle with that anyway, and you would, and then to think that the one career you want to do says no, you stand there and say, I agree, drugs and taking drugs is incompatible service life. I agree that homosexuality is incompatible service life. Those were the statements you had to make every time you went anywhere near careers officers and stuff. It created a lot of confusion in my mind. And bizarrely, I was so scared of coming out that I thought, well, if I join the military, maybe it'll not happen. Maybe that can just go away. Obviously it didn't, and that, that's a whole nother, journey of acceptance, I guess, and being, learning to be confident and being me, being happy being me.
And when did you start to feel confident enough to actually say, I'm gay?
Not until I was leaving the RAF. I think because that was a side that I was kind of suppressing anyway, because I'd always felt, and certainly until 2000, it was illegal. It was not compatible with that job. You always felt you were hiding something. And so therefore I kind of sort of hid it from myself. And it was really conflicting. I mean, I find that difficult. And my older brother, is also gay. And when he came out, you can imagine there was some difficult family conversations at that point. And I was already struggling, in the Air Force and with my, struggling with stuff anyway, and back pain and potentially, towards the end of the career. And then the negative reaction he received, terrified me of saying anything. So.
Did you tell your brother, though? Did you have him as a source of support? Did you have any sources of support that you were drawing on at that time?
I'd spoken a little bit to one of my friends. Did I tell my brother? Yes, I did. Now, we are very close, but yeah, he did. He wasn't the most supportive. I think he just went, no, I really don't think you are. I think I think he was probably, and it probably came from fear of me then going through what he was going through. In time, once he realised I was serious, then then he was supportive and kind of stood up for me.
And so, how would you suggest anyone in a similar situation to you? What advice can you give about how they can deal with that coming out to parents and family and friends, and in your sort of situation and to wider context, because you'd had to hide it for so long to do the job you wanted to do?
I think it's an eternally difficult question. Everybody's experience of it is different. I've got friends, who came out 30 years ago when they were 13, 14, and their parents just went, oh, okay, that's great. We love you anyway. And that's fine. We're happy to support you in whatever you want. And other people who had situations like mine, other people who had worse situations. I've had friends who lost their careers, actually got, criminally investigated in the military and thrown out, and whose families threw them out of their house when they were young. I think nowadays, again, it's become more talked about, more normal to talk about, and I think people are more open-minded now, and there's more support networks out there, and there's more advice, and my nephews are 6 and 8, 7 and 9. Anyway, about that age, and they've got a gay auntie and a gay uncle. They've never known any different. They've got school friends who've got 2 mums. They don't know any different. So kids now, there's not as much.
It's more visible, isn't it?
It's more visible, and I think that's the important, isn't it? It's more visible, and again, it comes back to role models. Claire Balding. My mother was a fan of Claire Balding, so that was great when she came out. It takes away that fear. You think, oh, actually, she's quite, So yeah, I think like anything, it comes back to role models and people being comfortable to talk about stuff, because when it's talked about, it is normalised. It's not it's not a scary thing. It's just different, isn't it?
Absolutely. It's the more we talk about these things, and like mental health, as we were talking about earlier, and it's destigmatized, the more normalized it is, and the more beneficial it is, for everyone. And with diversity, what we were sort of saying earlier as well, is if you've got lots of people with lots of different viewpoints and attitudes, you are increasing the wealth of experience that you're bringing, whether it's, to a business in particular. So talking a bit about sort of diversity and adaptability. So you've learnt to fly with Aerobility. So tell me how that process went and how your first solo was, or your second first solo, I suppose, with Aerobility.
Yeah, it was great. So like I talked about before, I did that first flight and just came back buzzing, and then started assuming I wasn't going to be able to get my Class 2 medical. Aerobility just said, well, let's just pick up from where you left off 22 years ago, and we'll just, train as if you're going through the syllabus. And if you never go solo, fine. We'll just ignore that bit, carry on, do some of the nav training, go and do cross-country stuff. You'll just always have somebody with you up until the point that you might get your medical. So that was great. I had great fun with it. And then, so I went through the process with the CAA, which wasn't actually that bad. I did the whole med swap thing, which, luckily for me, it was a good swap. I didn't have really bad side effects. In fact, the medications were actually better for me. So I got my Class 2 medical, finally agreed on I think it was a New Year's Eve, 21. So yeah, I went solo pretty quick after that because I've been practicing. I just couldn't do it on my own yet because of the medical. So it was just, it was great. I mean, it was really great. It was, one side of me, was like, why? My friends all did this, when they were in the teenage years and they went on to do the PPL, and I'm waiting till I'm in my 40s. You know, it was like going back to medical school when I was 30. Everybody else did it when they were younger, but I told myself it doesn't matter. You know, I wanted to do it and I got there. And I can just pick up from here. You know, a lot of my friends had retired from their flying careers by now. And I'm kind of just starting my flying journey again. But, you know, I figure it's never too late. So yes, so solo was brilliant. I did that. It gave me such confidence because I knew I could do it. But again, it was reflecting on it. It was thinking, you know, the imposter syndrome. And yes, I know on paper, you know, I've qualified doing this. I can do this. I can do this. But actually, having come from such a dark place, I was kind of reminded, you know, my medical examiner had the confidence that my mental health was fine enough to fly. The CAA psychiatry team, when we're happy to have you in the air on your own. You're not that ill. And, you know, the instructors here and, you know, Mike and everybody had the confidence in me to go, yeah, go for it. You're ready. And to realise that all of those people had, you know, that faith in me again was really powerful because I had lost so much confidence in myself and that whole imposter thing where they went, no, you're good enough. You're a pilot. Go pilot, you know, go and do it.
And the future, does that hold much flying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
A lot of flying?
So I got my PPL in the August. My next plan was I wanted to do my aerobatics rating because I loved it when I was in the cadets and stuff. But it was also, I found the whole thing quite frightening. So I was like, I want to do this. And then I was lucky enough to get a scholarship down at Goodwood to do a tailwheel conversion. Yeah, so now I'm just flying and practicing my aerobatics. So I've done my aerobatics on my own now. So that was an achievement that I think that was one of the biggest achievements I wanted out of flying because I never did that before and I never did that in the military. I switched over to nav. I never got to go and fly in an aircraft on my own doing aerobatics. It was like this dream and I didn't think I'd get there. Even when I was doing my PPL, I thought, probably not going to happen. But that's what I wanted to do.
The story of what Aerobility have helped you get to.
It gives you such confidence and then to be around other people, because I didn't think I could be all around people that weren't military. And then I thought I couldn't be around flying without it triggering me. I mean, I avoided being anywhere near airfields and stuff for years and years and years because it's this kind of feeling of I can't do that anymore. And then what you asked about the future. The future is I've got a plan. It's a bit of a random one, but 2025, which is when I finish GP registrar training, I've decided, this is a bit of pie in the sky, but I want to take a light aircraft and fly the old air race route from Portsmouth to Cape Town. You know, in a little aircraft, not with a big fuel tank, you can just land twice and go. I want to go all over the place and land in lots of places and try and use my, you know, medical background to go and do some volunteer work or charity work or education work or something, you know, in various places. So I thought that would be a good flying challenge and something to kind of aim towards. And on a less dramatic note, do my ATPL exams to get my CPL in order to do a flying instructor's qualification. Kind of giving back to, you know, either people here or, you know, to younger people and, you know, who have the dreams of their own to get into flying.
Well, that's absolutely remarkable. And I love the way it's sort of coming full circle in a way that an Aerobility has been that cathartic process that helped you fulfill your dreams and helps you heal.
Absolutely, and to allow me to create future dreams, you know,
future opportunities for other people. Yeah, it's a wonderful story, and you know your resilience that you've shown throughout. You know everything that's the life has thrown at you. I think a lot of our viewers and listeners can really take away from. So, thank you very much for coming today and for sharing your story with us and your openness, your honesty, your vulnerability that you've shown, and in sharing everything with us. So thank you very much, Catherine, for coming today, and I'm wishing you all the best with your flying training and your future instructing and the journey, 2025 journey. I think that sounds remarkable. So I look forward to hearing more about that. So good luck, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.